This is not the first time that ESS project has been presented on the TECHNIA days, but as there's always a lot of new people, and I don't want to bore the ones that have seen and heard it before, instead of presenting the project, we'll do a little bit of a project update. ESS is placed just outside Lund, and we're building a research facility. We're building a spallation source. And here's our mission. We're to design, build, and operate, and slightly ambitious, the world's leading research facility using neutrons. Basically, it's a microscope. But it's a pretty big microscope. To do this, we're collaborating with 13 different countries and a couple of observers around Europe. We have collaboration with different institutes, research facilities, laboratories, in the hundreds. There's a lot of them. And there also, of course, a financial contribution to this. This construction budget is split up, and the way it works is that a collaborating country has taken a portion of the budget. For that portion, they are designing, building, delivering, hopefully helping us to install and commission a part of the facility. That makes it very interesting working with CAD and PLM, of course, because that means that I am not a customer to them. I can't ask them, or actually I can't tell them, okay, I want 3D experience data. I can ask them very nicely. I can market it hard, together with TECHNIA and together with Dassault, that it would be really, really great if you did it this way. But at the end of the day, they have the money. So that's a bit of an interesting situation. So it's split up, and the majority of the cost is taken by Sweden and Denmark, about 55%. This number is a little low. Excuse me. And basically, so how is it going? Well, the first decision to build a facility like this was taken 16 years ago. The decision to build it in Lund was taken 10 years ago, and we had a little celebration recently to celebrate that. And we are currently halfway through 2019-ish, and the real construction phase is supposed to end now in 2019. Some portions will continue a little bit, but we are pretty much on schedule. Our hard target is to start the user program in 2023. And we will be doing research before that, but from 2023 on, there will be a schedule. There will be users coming in from all over Europe, probably also other parts of the world, to do research, and that means that when they do that, the facility needs to be up and running. And 2025 is when the construction should be completed altogether. Then the plan is to run the facility for at least 40 years-ish, and then eventually one day decommission it, we think. So it's a pretty big facility. It consists of an accelerator tunnel where we have a proton accelerator. We have a building along the tunnel to feed. Basically, that's all to power and run the accelerator. We have a cryocompressor building where we cool down helium. You guys talked about helium before. We have 20 tanks. I think there are 18 tanks. They're about 10 meters tall of helium. That's helium. If anyone needs to blow up some balloons, just come visit, no problem. From the tunnel, the protons will go into the target building, hit a wheel made out of tungsten, I'll come back to that, and generate neutrons for these instruments. So this is the science level that I managed to do it on. We have other people who do this much better. We have an ion source in the beginning, which is the coolest thing. We have an ion source. I mean, come on. And it's up and running, or until we broke it and now we're repairing it, but it's up and running. We have a proton beam going through a superconductive accelerator, or parts of it is superconductive, to generate a beam power when it reaches the target of the average mean power is 5 megawatts once it's fully implemented. it hits the target. The target is a wheel made out of tungsten, and it's rotating. And the reason it's rotating is that when this proton beam hits it, if it wasn't rotating, so we had time to cool it off, it would melt very quickly. The actual hitting of the wheel, excuse me, knocks off the neutrons. That process is what's called spallation. The neutrons bounce off all over the place. We try to guide them out to the instruments where the actual research takes place. So everything up until that point is basically just a microscope. And you can compare it to, I mean, if you look at something in a microscope, you're using the light, and the more light you put on the better you can see things. If you X-ray something, you use that radiation to analyze something, and it's the same thing with neutrons. And the reason for using neutrons is that they are charge neutral, so they don't stop on metals, for example. So now this is going to be really interesting. I'm going to show you a little movie. We have a drone with a camera flying over the site. And this, the last time was in July. And the build is 60% done. Most of the buildings are in place. At the very end there, we're starting to erect our main offices. And this is basically the beam direction. So I'll see if I can do this. You don't see that pointer. I'll go point. The accelerator tunnel is here, and goes into the target. So right in the direction of the beam, we will put our offices. We're pretty sure it'll be all right. At least we hope so. But at least we will be the first to know if something goes wrong. Next will be Lund, and then Malmö, and then Copenhagen. Nothing important, but we will be the first to know. So let's see if we can run the movie here. There's no sound to it, so I'll try to be entertaining. In the top of the road, you see actually the E22 highway. The curved building in the back there is the long instrument hall. The instruments will be placed all the way up to 150 meters from the target. And we have some CAD challenges there because they want to create an arc to guide them. And that arc is pretty large, larger than we can scale. There, yep. So that's just the accelerator from the whole tunnel from the other direction. We've hid it well, we put dirt over it. There you see our helium tanks to the left. They're pretty big. And a part of Skåne. Another part of Skåne. Cryocompressor building. Here's the build of the target. And at the end there are offices. So you see they're very, very strategically placed. Yep. See where it stops here. So yeah, I'm just going to use the fact that the movie stopped. So in this little cylinder here, which is 12 meters in diameter, is where we will actually have the target installation with the target wheel in the middle. The wheel itself is 2.5 meters in diameter. And you can actually see that here's where they're going to be guiding out the neutron beams to the different instruments. And everything has to be super aligned. The tunnel is 600 meters long, and the floor in the tunnel deviates plus minus 1 millimeter. So that's something for you guys from GIM to bite into. Okay, so how do we do this? We're using 3D Experience. We're still on 2016X. We're using both Innovia and CATIA. We were quite early adopters. We went live in 2012 with 2012X, and then 13, and 14, and then 16. We're coordinating all the design in what we call the EPL, ESS plant layout, and that also means that we import from the other tools into 3D Experience to visualize the complete facility, because we really do need to do that for, integration purposes. We also need to communicate from this, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the Remove Invisible tool later, and that's one of the things that enable us to actually export useful reference models as well. Inside Innovia, or inside 3D Experience, we have broken down our facilities into different structures to make it easier to navigate through it, and also to be able to create links depending on which approach you have, where you come from, so to speak. How do we connect the different tools or the different views for the users? A little bit of the challenges, of course. Quite a few of our partners are actually using CATIA, most of them V5 though. And since they are labs, research facilities, and so on, quite a few of them are actually using academic versions, which creates some issues for us. But we integrate, and we have quite a few that are actually working now on remote through our 3D Experience platform using VPN, and it's working pretty well. Of course, we have to coordinate this. As I mentioned, we have our ESS plant layout. We have skeletons, of course. We use different coordinate systems to identify where on site we are. And our master model is quite big. I'll come back to that in a bit. So, as a tool to manage this, we're using Remove Invisible. And how, do we do that? Well, in reality, our master model is really large. We can't really be reasonably loaded. We need, of course, to do integration. We need to make sure that the design we receive from other facilities fits. We need to be able to have discussions around layout, where to place things. And we need to communicate it out as well. So this is the panel from Remove Invisible. I'm going to talk a little bit more about it in a bit. What we do is that everything that we store is numbered ESS and a number. You can see that here as well. Let's see if where are you? I'll just go points instead. So ESS and then just a serial. That's just a serial number. Excuse me. Oh damn. Of course, when we run the Remove Invisible tool, one of the principles is that it does it removes the parts from that assembly. And as we're working with the database, we still want to save that lighter assembly, of course. That's the purpose of to be able to reuse it, but we don't want to overwrite it. Because that would be a very nice way to mess with your colleagues. Oh, by the way, I run Remove Invisible on your assembly. 60% of the parts are gone. I owe you a beer. So we set some restrictions about how can save the new assembly, who's allowed to do it, and to maintain the original structure, of course. And the user can also directly from this create a step export. I'm going to see if we can. It looks better than this in a second. There we go. This is one of our assemblies. This is a cryo module, and it contains quite a few parts, about 8,000. It is a vessel through which the beam goes, and it adds more power to the proton beam as it goes through. Inside that, it's cooled inside down to 3 Kelvin, and it's got ultra-high vacuum. So the tolerances on this stuff is pretty hard, and there's quite a lot of very detailed design going in there, so it's quite heavy models. So we're running Remove Invisible to this to see how can we lighten up this model, and I'm talking while it's doing this because it's actually doing it real time, just to get you a feeling that it takes me some talking time, but it really doesn't take that long time. And of course, the purpose is to analyze this and say, okay, cover up everything or some things. What's inside? What can be removed to make this one lighter? And so first it does a computation, and then for some reason he has to go down and collect the window. I've been doing this so many times that I'm not trying to do it live. We're using video. Okay. So here's the result. It has computed 1,400 and something visible parts, 6,500 parts that can be removed. That is a significant saving. And I need to save some time. In this mode, you can see it shows us, it highlights everything that will be removed, and you can switch that back and forth. You can select an individual component and say, no, I want to keep that, or no, we can remove that as well. And I mean, I think it's quite, even if it's a little choppy now, being able to do this on this level, this is a large assembly, is pretty good. And once he's done showing us things that we can't really see anyway, he will then execute it. And it's really fast. I'm going to get ready. So here we have the new structure and the original structure. And what is done to keep them apart is it kept the name of the, you can't see this, I know, but trust me, it's the same name, but it added an L in the beginning. And since we had ESS before, you can figure it out. And it retains a link, excuse me, it retains a link so that if you're working on the light structure, you can easily just say, okay, I want to bring up the real stuff because I want to make changes. Yeah, I think we'll skip this video there. So just a quick overview, recap, what you couldn't see on the video. 1,443 visible parts and 6,614 to hide, at least. And of course, this is a part of our, you see the EPL, it says EPL Spallation Integration up there. So this is our lightweight layout. This is the copy with all only the slimmed down data. Zoom in a little bit so we can actually see that it's there, but it's also there. And it's instantiated 22 times. So by running this, we save about 150,000 components that we don't need to load in our large assembly. And this is on one design. We have a lot of things that are instantiated even more times. Here's a little bit on the numbers. The complete layout at the moment holds almost 2.8 million parts, 2.75. And the less structure holds almost exactly half of those. So this means that we can actually manage it in a decent way without having to buy horribly powerful and expensive workstations. So after we run it, you've done the remove and everything else, it's automatically saved in the database, and it automatically adds an L for light, retains the rest of the numbering, and that's why less is more. So, thank you for listening.